So we have quite a niche audience here. So, I just want to make sure that, the session is productive for all of you guys. So just as a heads up, how many of you are providers of media services or consulting companies? How many of you from consulting? 1, 2, yeah. And how many of you are students potentially looking for a job in the social media gamification sector? None? Okay. And how many of you are from companies and customers who are looking at social media or gamification? Okay, 1. Okay. Okay. So what I'm going to talk about today is essentially it's actually a good session because it just follows from the thread of the previous one, where we talked about how to select a vendor. And one of the key things I think the lady asked before this session was, why shouldn't we do it ourselves? Why shouldn't we hire programmers? Why shouldn't we do it in-house? Whether it's social media, whether it's gamification, what's the break-off point? How do I internalize? And when do I decide to get a vendor? I think we'll just share some thoughts on that. Now, to internalize, usually the first step is to train. And, the train and learn on your own. So most companies, what they do is they would want to train their staff, send them for a training. So if you're a media company, if you're a consulting company, one way to get business is get into the training aspect of the business, right? Because most companies, even if they are internal, taking things internal, they would want their staff to get trained. So that's a key part, not only for end customers but also for providers, is training. Because that's really the key. You start with gamification, social media, any form of activity. That's the first step. Obviously, the second step is you're trying to explore, how do my customers come in touch with me? Now, usually what we do is we treat it as silos, right? We have the web. We sometimes forget the mobile. We sometimes forget that people call, even though everyone has a phone. We don't really buy a phone today to call, right? We buy it for a lot of other activities. So getting all the touch points covered is a key part of your strategy here. And how do you do that right? So, getting into a huddle, you would often seen whether you're a consulting company or an end customer, doesn't matter. Sometimes it's a knee-jerk reaction, like the creative director or the managing director would just say that let's do it, let's get our FB strategy in place, but they don't huddle. So one of the key benefits of getting into huddle is you make it more democratic, right? Which means you get members from each division into your group. Otherwise, it's just a directive. It's like one day somebody lands up with the directive, okay, we have this gamification, or we have this social initiative, we've started our FB campaign, and the junior marketing execs or people from sales, they don't know anything about it. That's because they feel left out, because somebody at the top made a decision, either they hired someone or tried to internalize, but they did not huddle. So getting a rep from each department and making sure that they are involved in that process is a big key. I mean, just take example the previous session of gamification. Rather than just send out an email and say this is what you have to do, if key people from each division were involved from day one, then you have a better chance of adapting that new initiative. Because the key thing what we see is, a lot of the CIOs, marketers, MDs, they worry about how do we get people to use it. Social media, other than Facebook or Twitter, is a very tough thing to adopt. People just don't have the inertia to log in and socialize because you need that minimum network effect. That's why you see so many failures and so many successes. So remember to huddle. Then obviously the key part is strategy. When you're trying to do your tweets or your Facebook posts, you often focus on number of likes, or you focus on number of friends. You focus on number of tweets or posts you're doing, but that doesn't help. That doesn't help. And I'll ask a small question again, if you guys don't mind. How many of you, whether as a consulting company or as an end customer or as a student, whoever, whichever bracket you are in, how many of you are part of a company or know of a company which spends $100,000 a month on social media? How many of you? Nobody. And this may not be a company you work in, this may be a company you supply to, or this may be a company you know of. How many of you know of companies or are part of companies that spend $50,000 a month on social media? Still no hands. How many of you know of companies which spend $10,000 a month on social media? Whether it's FB, Twitter, doesn't matter. How many of you know of companies or are part of companies who spend $5,000 a month? So you probably know some. So you know what the problem is here? We are not even spending $1,000 a month, and we want success out of social media. The bottom line is, most companies fail when they try to benefit Facebook or Twitter. Most companies fail. Just having a Facebook page, having a Twitter page, and it could be for your own good. I mean, you could be having a resume on LinkedIn, you will not succeed. Most people don't succeed. It's like shouting on the road. There's a lot of traffic going on, and you're trying to shout. Nobody listens. You feel happy that you're tweeting all the time, you're uploading things all the time. Nobody cares. And the fact is, it's sort of linked to how engaging you want. The most companies who are successful spend in excess of $100,000 a month. They have a person who's known as Chief Social Officer. So the point exactly is that you need strategy in place, what you want. And what my next slide would show you is that the quality of what your quality of updates and whether it engages or not is the key metric of whether you succeed. Because what happens is, just take your own personal life for example, right? Some days you go and you post something to your friends on Facebook and nobody likes it. Nobody even comments on it, even though you have 500 or 1,000 friends. You don't like that, right? But someday you post a picture or you write something really honestly funny, and suddenly you have like 55 likes or 30 comments, and there's a lot of engagement going on, there's a lot of conversation going on. You feel good about it because you made an honest investment into that post as an individual, rather than saying things like, oh, weekend is coming, enjoy. How many people, maybe you get a few likes, few messages. The key thing is timing as well. For example, while tweeting, right? We knew of a company who were based in Asia. Their customers were, they were sort of a trading, they were a brand trading company. They used to be a big distributor for things like, Unilever, P&G, etc. They used to tweet in Asian time zone, which means Singapore, GMT +8. The customers are in US. So by the time they wake up, all your tweets, all your Facebook updates are already buried. So to be able to schedule your updates is another aspect of strategy. Even if you have the perfect strategy, but you're communicating when your customers are sleeping, doesn't help. Now, coming to the vendor prospecting part, question is 5 enough? Is 3 enough? How do you select a vendor? Now, it also boils down to what your needs are. Are you looking for more salt, more pepper on your pizza, more cheese? What are you looking for? And one thing, this is not a question to which I can give you an answer today. All we can do is give you a framework. So One thing that's common is obviously trust. A lot of companies give, no other companies, and that's why they give them the business. So taking off that trust factor in vendor selection is a key part. And how do you get trust? You get trust from, making sure who they've worked for, making sure what they have a history of, delivering similar products, similar services, calling up references. If they can do a trial campaign, like how Krishna was mentioning that they do trial campaigns before this. Things like that help. Obviously, the vetting procedure, you go through your usual cycle, but sometimes, we tell you trust your gut as well. So getting a provider to get your social media campaign is not the easiest part, because it's a young industry. A guy in his pajamas sitting in his bedroom could be a social media company. At the same time, you have people from Ogilvy and the big ad agencies who are also a social media consulting company or a gamification company. So you have one guy sitting in his pajamas to a multinational corporation. So that helps. And in your rating process, things like making sure the pricing, the payment methods are ticked off. Especially for people who are working, what kind of pricing models? Because especially when you're trying to engage someone, are they looking at engagement-oriented pricing? Are they looking at just a fixed monthly fee? Are they charging you on likes? Are you the kind of people who would buy friends? That's the biggest mistake you could ever do. Because, you could have like 10,000 friends, or you could have, 50,000 likes, but there's no engagement. And let me tell you, on Facebook, one of the key things that work today, what we've seen from a business perspective, is competitions. Facebook is not somewhere it's easier to promote a consumer brand. But even for B2B brands, like we did for a plywood company, it was not focused on buy my plywood. It was not, buy this plywood, because many consumers are not able to make that decision directly, especially if they're buying a home directly. What it did was, showed them daily pictures of beautiful living places, beautiful bathrooms, beautiful living rooms, beautiful bedrooms. And I don't know if any of you have seen House, HOUZZ. It's a beautiful app. If you download it, it just shows you what a home can be. It's absolutely gorgeous. Even if you're trying to buy a single bed for your home, it just gives you an amazing clarity on what you can do. So what that company did, instead of saying that we are the best, and how often can they say that when you're selling, 10 or 15 kinds of plywood? You promoted a sense of desire for a better quality of living. Whether you're living in a dorm or whether you're living in an apartment or a landed house, it started to create a desire of a better quality bathroom, better quality living room. So as usual, you wake up, you go onto Facebook, and you suddenly see, oh, this beautiful, beautiful picture, and you want that. So indirect marketing. And that was engaging, because they said, oh wow, this is great. By the way, the plywood you used in this was this company. Right now they're having a campaign for a free iPhone 5. And they have a video called Share the Anger. So if you search for Century Ply, they have a video called Share the Anger. So you just see the video and you are enrolled for the competition for a free iPhone 5. And then they show pictures of people who won the iPhone 5 and link to their profile and with their image as well. They're adding about roughly 1,500 likes a day. 1,500 likes a day. Genuine likes which are engaging. So, if you want to take one thing away from this session, you're investing 30 minutes of your life with me here, right? There must be something you can take home. It should not be a waste. So, if one thing is make sure, no matter what business you are in, there's engagement. And if you had an FB focused campaign, make sure that you use video. Even if you're doing newsletter campaigns, regular emails. In today's world, video works like nobody's business. People will not read text. People will not want to read. If you have 2 paras of text that will take 2 minutes to read, most people won't, especially if they have no connection with you. If you have a video for which they have to watch a minute of an ad and 4 minutes of the video, people are willing to do that. People are willing to spend 5 or 7 minutes of their lives on a video, but not 2 minutes reading text. That's the way our minds are changing. So, the other big part is, what we talked about, getting the vendor, what to focus on a social campaign. We often do not measure. The only measurement we do is likes or maybe friends or so when you don't measure, you don't manage it. So a deeper focus into analytics. So for example, that company I mentioned about who were having a great strategy, they were using videos, they were using competitions, they were putting, focused tweets. What they were not doing was scheduling their campaign. And they got to know it because over 70% of the traffic was coming from the US. And their major campaigns were being launched during the Singapore time. So it was only analytics which could tell us that that's the phenomena that's happening. So this is a very basic. What analytics can tell you is unlimited. It can tell you customers from new countries or prospects from new countries. It can tell you people are interested in things which you didn't think it was interesting. So having a deep focus on analytics. Second part is leads. So many of the campaigns that we see today, right? So many of the campaigns just give you some information, but they do not give you a call to action. So for example, if you see this video, and what? And do what? So in this particular campaign that I was telling you, they gave a 3-step process. View the video, share it, and you become a contender for an iPhone 5. Or fill this form now, request a call now, leave your name and number, we'll call you back. So for example, even if you are an IT company, a support company, and you have people who come to you for support, leave your number, we'll call you back. Basic things like that. So focusing on lead generation, whether it be for support, whether it be for sales, whether it's for competition, at the end of the day, as the head of marketing or the head of a company, there must be a call to action. What do you want to achieve from the specific campaign that's happened? That's what we say, focus on lead generation. I mean, it sounds very obvious. Most of the things that I tell you is obvious. But when we are in the market, we are very surprised that people want to pay us for these things, for telling them the obvious. Now, to give you an example, now these are just some of the work we've done. One of them being for the tourist, the Singapore Tourism, Your Singapore campaign. Then you can see something that we did for Accor Hotels. And then Motorola Solutions, again, the entire FB campaign in Motorola for Singapore is managed by us. And then other companies, this is the Century Ply is the company I was talking about for the Share the Anger. So essentially the concept was a big gorilla, right? He was trying to break their plywood and he couldn't. And it was a great campaign because they actually started with showing that a man was talking to a gorilla, right? But the gorilla was his wife. So that gorilla morphs into the wife later on. It's a great video, you must see that, especially if you're married. So we work for Heinz, we work for a number of companies across there. So obviously it's a disclaimer as well, right? There's a potential conflict of interest. I am a vendor and I'm telling you how to select a vendor. So you please make your adequate due diligence before you adopt the principles I've said.